And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm Mike Harrison, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. I want to thank you for joining me today. Well, friends, another year in the bag, and I know it sounds cliche, but it has gone by so quickly. And one of the themes of the show today that I hope resonates with you is essentially, I hope you're taking steps today that will bless you tomorrow. Okay, I hope you took steps this year that will bless you next year and the year after. Obviously, financial steps, but you could be taking fitness steps. You can be taking mental health steps. You could be spending time with your family. But take on those endeavors now that are going to bless you going forward. And I'm going to share a lot about that on today's show, so I hope you can stick with me. Now, before I get to that, I do want to share a little behind the scenes, so to speak, pull the curtain back on the radio show here. Del Walmsley is the owner of Lifestyles Unlimited, and it's his direction that this radio show comes to you daily all over the United States. Del has his own show. He has the Del Walmsley radio show, in case you didn't know that. And then there's this show. This is the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor radio show. I'm just one of the hosts. There's three of us. I've got two other great friends that also host the show, and they've got unique views on real estate. If you hadn't caught them, that's Al Gordon and Andy Webb. We all have our own perspective, but I do one show a week, and I want to share that no one at Lifestyles Unlimited taps us on the shoulder and says, hey, Harrison, I'd like you to talk about this week and this next week. There's no scripting. There's no content that's handed to me that I'm required to share. Now, I do share things about the expo and our free workshop and financial freedom seminar and how to join, that sort of thing. But no one's telling me the content that I put into the show. I'll tell you, one of the many beauties of Del Walmsley is that he is no micromanager. He is absolutely not a micromanager. In fact, my instruction, as I understand him, is do the show, make it relevant, make it as entertaining as I possibly can, and really that's it. But no content meetings. And I'm sharing that to tell you this. I'm driving, and the Del Walmsley radio shows is on at that time. And yes, I do listen to his show. I have a lot of learning yet to accomplish. There is a lot of real estate investing that I want to accomplish. So I stay fresh, and I listen to the other host, and I listen to Del Walmsley. And here he is, and I'm driving, and he's talking about something that I'm planning to share today. So it was a coincidence. So you may want to go pick up his show. It's from December 14th. The title of that show is The Risk of Investing in Commercial Real Estate. And you can find that at the Lifestyles Unlimited website, lifestylesunlimited.com. Just click on the radio button and scroll down, and you'll see it there. But it was interesting because there's a part of the show that Del goes off on, and he talks about essentially spin within the media. And I had already taken notes. I said, this is something that I'm going to talk about on my show today. But honestly, in the past, the spin didn't bother me because it was rare, right? You knew when there was an opinion. Now, you don't know when, if you're not paying attention, when something is a fact and something is an opinion. But there's so many spin meisters everywhere. And the problem is they're telling you how to interpret the news. That's what they're doing. They're telling you. They're giving you the news, and then they're putting this slant to essentially tell you how you need to think about it. And I'll give you a perfect example. In fact, the morning of December 14th, I'm listening to the radio in my office, and they talk about the recent hike, the recent interest rate hike by the Fed. Interest rates went up 0.5 point. That was the news, okay? Now, before I get to the spin, I will tell you that anyone with half an economic brain, knows that this is not good economic news. Higher interest rates put a strain on everyone, and they really put a strain on the poorest amongst us. The poorer you are, the more interest rates hurt you. The cost of money is increasing. When an interest rate goes up, they're basically saying money is getting expensive. And what happens? Growth is stifled, and the Fed is raising interest rates to curb the rampant inflation. None of this can be viewed as good news. Higher interest rates depress economic expansion. Businesses will have decreased revenues. People will be laid off. Others will struggle to make daily expenses. Again, this hurts the poorest amongst us. However, the illustrious media in this great country feels it's important to spin it like this. Interest rates are up 0.5 point in an effort to show that the Fed will begin dialing back rates. They will? How do you know that? So you're telling me that it's good that we went up? Every commenter on the news has to put their 2 cents in it. And the fact is, it's probably not even their 2 cents, but they're trying to tell you how you should view things and how you should think about things. And Dell discusses this on his show from December 14th. If you missed it, and you should go back, he says it much better than I do. But I was commenting as I was listening to the radio, and I heard that the Fed had increased interest rates 0.5 point. But then they immediately go, in an effort to show you the Fed will begin dialing back rates. So, wait, we increased it. I ate 2 steaks to show you I'm about to go on a diet tomorrow. Do you see what I'm saying? How ridiculous that sounds? Look, I will tell you right now, the savings of Americans today is at its lowest levels. Credit card debt is at its highest ever levels. Consumer sentiment is at a 50-year low, and interest rates going up another 0.5 point is good news for you. So you sheep are supposed to believe that. Well, my point is, my friends, don't fall for the spin, and don't let the spin consume you. Now, I want you to think of every radio show that we do on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show or the Dell Walmsley Radio Show. I want you to think of it as an ingredient, right? Just one ingredient in an overall recipe. And that overall recipe is financial freedom. So if you can take several shows and get a little information from that show and a little information from this show, eventually you'll have enough, essentially, ingredients to cook up a dish of financial freedom. Financial freedom achieved through real estate investing in cash flowing assets, cash flowing real estate assets. That's what we do. That's what we teach. Now, what I want to do on my show today is I'm going to reference, if you can stick with me the entire time, you may want to take notes, but I'm going to reference many of the shows I did throughout the year, and I'm going to group those in various subjects. For instance, why start now? Why real estate investing is such a great investment, stock market versus real estate, some of those things, and I'll reference some of those shows later. So you may want to, if you got a chance to take notes, you may want to jot down some of those shows if you want to catch some of those subjects. Last December, I sold a rent home, and I made a fantastic gain. I mean, well over 300%. I want maybe 350. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it was nice. That was December of 2021, right? Everything was on fire. Everything was doing well. Economy was just smoking, right? Sold that house at the right time. Now, just last week, I closed on the sale of another rental property. And some of you may be saying, well, that's the wrong time to sell a house. No, it was the right time for me. Look, I'm happy to report essentially the same outcome, well over a 300% return on that property. Now, I purchased that property in 2014, and I talk about it all the time. Are you taking steps today that are going to bless you tomorrow? This is how it works. What you're doing right now is going to help you tomorrow. What you did yesterday is going to help you tomorrow. And you've got to put all that together. But I sold that house to an incredible gain. Now, why did I sell it? I sold it because, for one, let's just call it tax issues. My cash flow had reached a point where it was greater than my depreciation, and so it was becoming taxable income. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we purchased a rental property, and we can depreciate that business, right? It's a business, so we can depreciate it over 27 and a half years. And you try to keep your cash flow less than that annual depreciation. And if you do that, then that tax flow, that cash flow becomes tax-free. So I was earning more in cash than the depreciation. Okay, so that was one reason. The next reason I'd owned this property, it was time for another major renovation. Another reason, the lease was up, so I knew if I released it, I'd be in for another year, and I'd have to sell if I wanted to in September of 2023. Did not want to do that. I'm looking to acquire some cash for some opportunities. So it was the right time for me to sell the home. But where I'm going, if I had sold it last year, I could have sold it for $40,000 or $45,000 more than I just sold it. Do I see that as a $40,000 to $45,000 loser? No, you can't look at it like that. You can't cry over the what ifs. Okay. What if I held it next year? Could I sell it for more? Maybe, but I can also maybe sell it for less. Now is the time. And I still got well over a 300% return over those years, right? I don't want you, too many people out there get caught up in the what ifs. And I don't know if that's, they tell you to buy and hold a stock that's ingrained in you. So even when the market goes down, people don't sell. They just hold it. And they tell you and eventually you'll be fine. And you can't keep that mentality in real estate. When the time is right, the time is right. I appreciated the return. I appreciated the gain of that property. What's the saying? Don't let perfect be the enemy of good, and I think that applies here. Now is the time to sell it. Or what's another analogy? You can say a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. So I sold the property, made well over a 300% return. It was excellent. And people may say, well, Harrison, let me put it another way. How do you make well over $100,000 in a real estate transaction? Well, you invest $30,000 at some point, and then you do what we teach you to do, and then you just follow the roadmap, and then eventually that's how you get those 300% gains. It's taking the action today that will bless you tomorrow. It's what we do tomorrow that will bless us the next year. Real estate is great for me in 2021 and 2022 because of what I did in 2013, what I did in 2014, what I did in 2015, what I did in 2016. So are you seeing the pattern here? And this is what I want to get across, and I'm going to share some of these shows that'll help drive this point if you stick with me. But there's the action we take today is what's blessing us tomorrow. We'll be right back after a short break.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
Everyone is asking, is it still a good time to invest in real estate?
We see no indication that for the foreseeable future, and even the unforeseeable future, no indication whatsoever that real estate is suddenly not going to be the best vehicle for creating wealth and passive income for your family. And so that would say that now is the time to get in. And we very rarely talk about this because we talk about cash flow. But now we're talking a little bit about capital gains and what the future brings in that property. Because it's real. At the end of the day, you have all your cash flow, but you've got this nice capital gain when you sell. And the inflation that we see and the reasons for it are going to continue. And we're going to see great capital gains at the end of the line when we sell these properties.
Get in on the next free workshop. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Listening to Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show will change your life. Now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm Mike Harrison, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. If you'd like to send me an email, I do respond personally to every email I get. My email address is askmike@luinc.com. So January 24th of this year, I did a show, and the title of that show is, Are Real Estate Investing Returns Too Good to Be True? Because I get that often. People don't really believe that we make that much on these properties. And I just sold a property in December. It was a greater than well over 300% return. I sold a property last December, well over a 300% return. And so that show, if you want to look it up, you can go to lifestylesunlimited.com. And the pro tip here is, if you click on the radio button, scroll all the way down, there'll be a search bar, type in Mike Harrison, and you'll find all my shows, and you'll have to go a few pages deep to get back to January. But it's a great show because it talks about the skepticism that some people have, and they, frankly, they don't really believe how much we make in real estate. Way much better than the stock market. When you've got your cash flow, you've got your equity capture. Yes, there's appreciation involved, but we really don't buy for appreciation, if you can imagine that. The tax advantages I've mentioned, and then there's the mortgage pay down. Each time that resident pays the rent, we pay the principal, right? So we're paying down that property, and it's amazing how it compounds over time. Now, what was my secret to success? What was my secret to making that 300% return? Friends, it's no secret. It's literally, I took action. I did something in 2014. I did something in 2015. I did something in 2016. I did a lot this year. I did a lot last year. And it's those actions that are coming back and blessing me. And honestly, these two houses, they're a couple of several that I've done. And I'm sharing this. I'm not bragging, but I'm sharing it to show you that it's pretty amazing how real estate returns come back to bless you, how they compound. These were simple rental properties. When I purchased them, I didn't know that they would turn out to be the way they did. It was just, at the time, it was just another step forward. Buy rental property, rehab rental property, put a great resident in rental property, and just boom, and then move on to the next one. And there's a saying I use on this show, and I actually borrowed it from one of our more popular lead investors. And this gentleman started out with single-family properties himself, and then he's moved on to multifamily properties as a lead, and he does a fantastic job. But I heard him say one time, he said, do something today your future self will thank you for. And that saying is so true. That saying is so true. It's what we're doing today, tomorrow, and the day after that's going to set us up in 2023, in 2024, in 2025. And now's the time to think about it. At the end of the year, we get to unwind, we get to relax. I hope most of you are able to do that, or all of you are able to do that during the holiday season. But what else do we also do? We reflect on what we did this past year. We reflect on next year. We visit with friends and family, and we think about tomorrow. So if someone said, hey, Harrison, I'd like to make a 300% return. I'd like to make $150,000 in 2026, for instance, and I'm just picking a year. And you want to know how to do that? Well, I would say invest $50,000 today. Okay, you want to make $100,000 tomorrow? Invest $30,000 today. You want to make $60,000 tomorrow? Invest $20,000 today. That's how it works. You put it in play, you take action, and you compound it, and you go and you go and you go. And that show will drive home, that January 2024 show, just how great the returns can be in real estate investing. Now, a few more shows, and this will be in the category of why start now, okay? Why start now? Today's the time, friends. Do it now. Well, you can go to January 31st, 2022. Again, almost a year ago. The title of that show, I have a guest on the show, And those of you that are members of Lifestyles Unlimited know this person very well, but many of you listening to me do not. His name's David Fisher. David Fisher, his story is, it's amazing what he's done, but he'll be the first guy to tell you that, look, I took action. I was tired of the same old. I was tired of the grind. I knew I needed to change direction. I found the Lifestyles Unlimited radio show. I started listening to it. I attended the 2-day financial freedom seminar, and then he took off from there. And you really should catch that show. That's January 31st of 2022, and the title of that show is Double Your Money Every 2 to 3 Years. And that's exactly what David did. He didn't start with a ton of money, but when you're doubling your investments every 2 to 3 years, 100,000 becomes 200,000, 200,000 becomes 400,000, 400 becomes 800, 800 1.6, right? Do you follow the pattern? Well, that's exactly what David's done, and David has done well, so you want to catch that show. March 28th of 2022. This is a great show. It's called The Fourth Type of Income to Build Generational Wealth, the fourth type of income. Most of you out there believe there's only 3 types of income. I will tell you there is a fourth type of income. It's called compounded income, right? It's house money. You invest, you get your return. Let's say you make a 50% return or 100% return. Then you take all that money and you put it into the next investment, and then it comes back and you make a 50 to 100, a 200, a 300% return, and you put all that into another asset, and it just compounds over time, and pretty soon you're playing with house money is working for you. So that's that March 28th show, The Fourth Type of Income to Build Generational Wealth. I wasn't always a real estate investor. I was somebody that was ingrained in corporate America, and I realized that the number I was trying to essentially save for within my 401k and IRA, right? That's what they teach us, that retirement's an age, and it's a pile of money, and when your age intersects with a pile of money worth a certain amount, which is age 65, then you can retire. Well, it doesn't work that way, friends. In fact, it doesn't work for over 90% of you out there. So I was just a guy looking for another avenue, and I found the show. And so each show was essentially an ingredient within that financial freedom recipe. So I'm talking on different subjects within real estate investing, and I had several shows that I've done throughout the year, but the concept that I'm sharing right now is, why should you start investing in real estate now? And I shared some of those shows in the last segment, but there's another one I want to share, and it's from August 24th of 2022. And you can find these shows at the Lifestyles Unlimited website. Type in lifestylesunlimited.com, click on radio, and literally there's decades of shows, okay? I'm just sharing some of mine from 2022, and there's shows from a lot of other hosts. There's been several hosts throughout the years of this radio show, so don't just listen to my content, pick up some of the other content from some of the other hosts of the show and put that together, put that into your financial freedom recipe. But that August 24th, 2022 show is a really good show. In fact, it's a class that I'll be teaching at the expo. And the title of that show is How Cash Flow Will Snowball You to Financial Freedom. And I talk about what I call the cash flow snowball. And it's very similar to, there's another radio host out there, and I know you know who I'm talking about. He's the guy who teaches everyone to get out of debt. And what he does is fantastic. I think getting out of debt is very important, but he doesn't have the answer for what, you're out of debt, now what? Okay, now what? Well, that's where the cash flow snowball comes in. Create a cash flow snowball, that compounding effect. And the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it grows. So that's a class I'll be teaching at Expo. If you're coming to Expo, I'd invite you to that class, but it's essentially how to create that cash flow snowball. Now, I do several classes, I did several shows on stock market versus real estate. Why would you choose real estate over the stock market? And honestly, when you really analyze it and you put pen to paper and you look at the differences between the two, real estate's a no-brainer compared to the stock market. No-brainer. One, it's much more predictable. Two, it's much more forgiving. 3, we don't get wiped out because Wall Street sneezes or Washington, D.C. takes some action. We control our own destiny. And there's several shows on that, and I'd like to share a couple of them here. One of them is from August 15th, 2022. The title of that show, which is scarier, Working Until You Die or Investing in Real Estate. Now, that title may sound rather dramatic, but it's true. One side of the coin is a 40-year plan, and it's not guaranteed. And that's the side of the coin I played in for my early years in life. That's the side of the coin that your parents teach you. That's the side of the coin that your boss wants you to play in. That's the side of the coin that is ingrained in us from a very young age. Now, the other side of the coin, real estate investing, well, as I've shared, that's the one that will pay you practically immediately. That's the one where you can double your wealth every 3 to 5 years. So 40-year plan, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We'll find out in 40 years. Or my plan, real estate investing. Why do you have to wait for an age to retire? Why can't you retire on your terms, when you want, do what you want, when you want, where you want, with whomever you want, on your terms? That's real estate investing, friends. And then the July 4th show from 2022. And that show is, it's kind of a funny show. Essentially, it's the title of it is Why You Should Break Up with the Stock Market and Marry Real Estate. So again, it's continuing that theme of stock market versus real estate. That's a great show. And then February 7th of 2022, the title of that show is 2 Roads to Retirement. Very similar to that July 4th show, but much more practical. And then April 11th, 2022, Grow Your Wealth in Real Estate Faster Than Growing Your Wealth in the 401k, right? One of the favorite things I like to ask folks that have essentially jumped in and started investing in real estate, and whether they're 1 year into their path or 2 years or 5 or 10 years, I always ask these people, I say, if you can go back and do anything different, what would you change? Or what's your one regret? I ask it several different ways. I will tell you, to a person, every real estate investor I know will tell you the same answer, and they all say, I wish I had started sooner. Well, that show will shed some serious light on that. It not only sheds light, I mean, it literally rips the curtains off the wall, and it's a beam of light. And so that show, again, April 11th, Grow Your Wealth in Real Estate Faster Than Your 401k. So like I said, in 8 years, I tripled what took me 20 years to do with the other plan. Now, there's a show from July 18th of 2022. If you don't want to take my word for it, well, that show essentially it's about the very best real estate investors in the United States. And I share some information that basically they say about real estate, what they like about real estate, or why real estate is a good option. And the title of that show is The Best Real Estate Investing Advice from the Pros. The Best Real Estate Investing Advice from the Pros. So it's not my words, it's their words. So if you don't want to take it from me, take it from the very best investors in the country. That's an excellent show. Back to doing something today your future self will thank you for. How do you start? If you want to learn how to start, I've got a great show May 9th, Tools to Start Investing in Real Estate. And essentially, you can visit that, and that may open your eyes to what you need to do to start prepping, to start putting together your game plan. Now's the time to put together your plan to take action, your strategy. How are you going to do this? And again, if you're married, if you have a partner, don't do this alone. Sit down, have a serious conversation and say, hey, this is a change. This is something we would like to do, because I'm telling you, I'm telling you with tears in my eyes, what you do right now, every action you take right now is what will shape you tomorrow. It's either going to bless you or curse you tomorrow, but it's what you're doing today. And friends, I always want you to remember, it's been a great year. Next year's going to be even better, but I want you to remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Make it a great day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.